For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, this is Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. On the show tonight, should a neo-Nazi be given a second chance? That's our big debate of the night. I'll be joined by a rabbi who says yes and a Labour activist who says no. We'll talk about the journalist investigated by police for researching the dodgy Professor Jason Ardé is no longer a professor. I'll also be joined by Brendan O'Neill as we pay tribute to the free speech champion Rod Liddle. And a GB News exclusive, I'll be joined by the detective constable who has been sacked for a joke about trans people. She's now been placed in the same category as rapists and murderers. And we've got comedians answering some crazy culture conundrums from our live studio audience. But first, news with Aaron Armstrong.
Hi there, very good evening to you. It's 7 o'clock. Our headlines. The Irish government plane carrying Daniel Kinahan has just landed in Dublin. The suspected crime boss has been extradited from Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. He was arrested there in April. He is expected to appear before the Central Criminal Court in Ireland later. Now, the boxing promoter will stand trial for allegedly directing the activities of an organised crime gang. He's accused of international drug trafficking and firearms offences. A large security operation is in place in Dublin, with Ireland's prison service having bought a bulletproof and bomb-proof van ahead of his extradition. The Israeli Prime Minister has rejected the 15-point plan for Gaza set out by the Board of Peace. Benjamin Netanyahu's released a statement ruling out any Israeli withdrawal from Gaza until Hamas disarms, and says there will be no Palestinian state there or in the occupied West Bank as long as he's leader. Last month, President Trump announced a breakthrough in his plan to end the war, which both Israel and Hamas agreed to. That began with a ceasefire in October. However, Palestinian authorities say at least 1,100 people have been killed by Israeli attacks in Gaza since that deal was announced. Andy Burnham will set off on a tour of the UK tomorrow in an effort to improve the government's connection with the public. Downing Street says the Prime Minister will be in listening mode. He's set to ask people how he can improve their lives. The Prime Minister is expected to announce a series of policies to tackle the cost of living and also to create breathing space for people struggling with bills. He's going to set out how to improve the country's high streets as well. He has already announced cuts to energy bills and a £2 cap on bus fares. That was during his first week in office. Dozens of asylum seekers have arrived in the UK today as the surge in small boat crossings continues. More than 500 illegal migrants have arrived in Dover over the weekend. A number of boats were launched earlier off the coast of Dunkirk. Some 2,500 asylum seekers have reached the UK since Andy Burnham came to power last month. Now, Reform UK has announced plans to use the Navy to stop small boat crossings, but the Conservatives say it's not a feasible solution.
They'll get exactly the same response from the Navy as actually the last government did when it tried. It's that it was impossible to intercept these boats without putting lives at risk. Therefore, it was an illegal order and they just couldn't do it. So that can't really be part of the plan. What Reform's announced is it's a headline. It's not a properly thought through plan.
And drought is likely to be declared across more of the UK as the country braces for a fifth heat wave of the year. No significant rain is expected, meaning dry conditions will continue for many, with temperatures set to reach 35 degrees by the middle of next week. Good weather for cricket, like these village players in Surrey at Tilford yesterday. Yellow heat health alerts are enforced. They'll last until Tuesday evening. You're up to date with the headlines. I'll be back with more at 8.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
To Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. This is a show where we cast our gaze across a spectrum of culture, current affairs and politics, doing our best to bring a bit of common sense to that which has become senseless out there. We're covering a lot tonight, including an exclusive with a police detective fired for a joke about trans women. But first, a former neo-Nazi who was selected as a Conservative councillor candidate has withdrawn from next year's election in Somerset after criticism over his past anti-Semitism. Joshua Bonehill-Payne was jailed for 3 years in 2015 after promoting an anti-Jewification march online, and a year later he received a further 2-year sentence for racially harassing then Labour MP Luciana Berger. But in prison, he underwent rehabilitation for extremist offenders, and since his release, he has campaigned against extremism and anti-Semitism, worked with Exit Hate and delivered counter-extremism training to police officers. Kemi Badenoch defended his selection, saying the party believes in second chances. He also runs the Crew Kern Gazette account on X, which posts things like Can you forgive a former Nazi? I'm joined by Alex Hearn from Labour Against Anti-Semitism and Rabbi Jonathan Romain. Welcome to the show. Thank you. Rabbi, let's start with you and how Judaism judges redemption, what it thinks about redemption.
Well, Judaism, like Christianity, believes in repentance, and if someone is genuinely repentant, then you give them a second chance. And this is why I think Kemi Badenoch, in this particular case, was right. And I'm very glad, by the way, that you mentioned his reprehensible past, because it was awful, and also the hurt to his victims, Luciana Berger and others as well, because that sort of hurt doesn't go away. But, and there are two important buts, firstly, he's done his time. And not only has he done his time, because a lot of people come out of prison and then go straight back in and they repeat the same mistakes. He's actually changed. That's really important. And not only has he changed, but he's gone over the other side, on the positive side, as I said, doing these educational trials for the police and other people, showing them why he got involved in the first place and also why he was wrong to do so. And as you said, most religions, certainly Judaism, Christianity too, they believe in second chances. And we've all messed up, you know. We've all done things wrong, we've all done things we've regretted, and instead of that being sort of permanent albatross around our neck, if we repent, if we reform, if we change, then it's right to be given a second chance. We talk about rehabilitation, that's a nice theory, we've got to put it into practice, and this is a really great example of saying to this guy, you messed up, you did wrong, but you turned around, and now you deserve a second chance.
I think the thing is that, Alex, that Kemi Badenoch, she wrote a piece in the Times all about how we need rehabilitation. We have to believe in it, otherwise what's the point? We just stick people in jail forever. Do you think, though, that him then standing as a counsellor is just a step too far? Is it a question of how do we believe he's rehabilitated?
Well, he may well be sincere. Everyone deserves a second chance, but he's not entitled to stand for public office. And the severity of his crimes are really significant. Luciano Berger's testimony was absolutely heartbreaking. He did Nazi salutes and smirked during the trial. And his kind of change of heart has only come about around about 2018, after he left prison.
But that was a few years ago, and he has... taken these steps. He has, as the rabbi says, taken active steps to redemption.
It's easy for us to forgive him. He hasn't wronged us. But look at Luciano's testimony. He ruined lives. And now he wants to be in public office where he has power over people, where they can't actually opt out of being safeguarded by this man. So I have serious reservations. Remorse should be done as most ordinary citizens do, quietly and over a number of years. And he, or Kemi, doesn't get to decide when he's ready to stand.
Well, that is the big point, and Nicole Lampard wrote a piece this week as well, which is that it always seems to be other people who are saying this person is now being redeemed, as opposed to the Jewish community and coming to the Jewish community and asking forgiveness of his victims. I understand he has tried that, but there are possible legal reasons why that can't happen. But still, it always seems to be that other people say, no, it's all fine, he's forgiven, as opposed to maybe speaking to the victims.
Well, I'm not another person. I'm only in England thanks to British hospitality, because my mother came here as a refugee from Nazi Germany. She came over here in the Kindertransport. She had a massive family of about 25. She and her parents were the only one, 3 out of 25. So I don't need anyone to talk to me about the Nazis. You know, my family has suffered enormously. You know, at the end of the day, you have to have a moratorium. Somebody's hurt can't go on forever in terms of imprisoning that person in their past. And that's why he did it. He got sentenced. You know, nobody said, oh, yeah, naughty boy goes scot-free. He got jailed. He paid the penalty.
Well, I mean, that person's hurt. Like, Luciano Berger has the right to feel the pain and hurt that she has experienced.
And I can't take that away. But that shouldn't mean that somebody who has changed should now be in prison for the rest of their life. You know, and also, by the way, he can do something that nobody else can do. He has got a street cred that everybody else lacks. I mean, we praise, for instance, ex-gang people who were involved in drugs and knives and who go into schools and tell the kids about it. And they listen to that person because they were in it. Similarly with him, he can go into schools, he's already gone to the police, he can be in local councils in public life and say, I was in that messy situation. I did wrong. I hurt myself. I hurt other people. And he's got more street cred in that respect than many other people.
Yeah, I mean, I suggest that he doesn't actually use the term street cred, otherwise he won't. But it's a very good point. Here's someone who has lived that extremist life, who has lived that hate, who has, according to themselves, has turned it around, but seemingly on the face of it. Surely that's the kind of person that is best sent out there and speaking to other people who could be sort of vulnerable to this kind of propaganda in their own way.
No one's suggesting he shouldn't be employed. No one's suggesting he should be silenced or that he should be hounded. The suggestion is simply that he's not entitled to public office where there's a safeguarding issue.
Do you think that there's a time frame on this? Do you think it's another 5 years of good work? Say if Luciano Berger and they did communicate, say she did accept his apology and other victims as well, do you think there would be a time where he has achieved this level of redemption?
Yes, of course, but there's some things that don't sit well with me. After he decided to stand, he then asked to meet with Jewish groups. Afterwards, he put them in an impossible situation where either they had to be photographed with him, i.e. laundering his him, or, on the other hand, refusing him, so they look like the bad guys. So that was an impossible position he put them in. And then when he stood down, he said, oh, well, the other parties are just going to use it as a weapon against the Conservatives. He didn't for once think about the victims. And I'm not saying that his remorse isn't sincere, but that did not sit well with me.
OK, because my understanding in Judaism from my old days before I got kicked out of being a rabbi was that...
You're welcome back.
Well, thank you. I'm not so sure about that, to be honest, but is that redemption occurs in 3 phases. First of all, the acceptance of doing something wrong, then there's the making amends for it, including apologies, and then finally there's the not actually doing the action itself, not repeating.
All of which he's met. And when we talk about rehabilitation, we don't say first class and second class. Rehabilitation is a given. Once you've done those 3 things, served your time, turned your ways, and demonstrably done the opposite as he's done, then, I mean, think of the opposite. If we don't forgive people like him, or people like who are in gangs or Islamic extremists who then turn a corner, if we don't forgive them and let them resume a normal lifestyle, then we just push them away from normal society and we push them back to the extremism from which they came. I really do believe in second chances. Not third or fourth or fifth, but certainly second chances. And I don't know this guy. I think he had a horrendous past, but I think he deserves, like anybody who messes up, a second chance. It'll be good for him. I think actually it'll be good for society. I agree that his victims will always suffer, but they will suffer not just tomorrow, but for 10 years and 20 years, and you can't push a guy back into a box for 10 or 20 years.
What about the accusations that there might be some truth that it is kind of being used politically, in that Labour and Reform have also accepted people who they say, no, these people are redeemed now, they also committed crimes, and they're MPs. They're now
correct.
advising government.
That's correct. No party has clean hands on this, but his crimes are far, far worse. The specific harassment of individuals whose lives he made hell because they were Jewish. No other person that I have seen welcomed back into political life has a crime, anything like that. They weren't leading neo-Nazi groups. You know, some of them may have been in extremist groups, but they weren't leading it. They weren't harassing specific individuals that I know of and making their lives hell.
But isn't it better that a leader changes rather than just an ordinary foot soldier? Isn't that the best thing? Isn't that what we'd really want?
Well, I think the thing is, my personal take on it, and there's a famous expression, you know, 2 Jews, 3 opinions, and we've got 3 Jews here, so there's probably about 6 or 7 going on somewhere, is that I agree intellectually with everything you're saying, but it feels very much like the Jewish community is very much, over the last couple of years, since October 7th, besieged by hate. And whilst you can sort of go, ideally, yes, of course, people absolutely need a path to redemption, at the same time, we are, understandably, I think, very overly sensitive at the moment.
I think you said it very well, actually.
Thank you.
There's a difference between the intellectual reaction. Rationally, we should forgive. Emotionally, we all know when we've got someone who wants to apologise to us, and it just sticks in our throat. So, yes, there's a big divide. But we have to do it. You know, it's the old Obama saying, they go low, we go high. And I think we need to keep to our principles. If we believe in rehabilitation, if we believe in forgiveness, then this guy deserves it. I don't know him. I don't hold a candle for his standing as councillor. And by the way, that's the other thing. We could have left it to the electorate and said, well, we trust the people. Let's see if they hold his past against him, or if they actually say, well, we're going to reward you for changing.
Well, they might have preferred to vote for a different Tory councillor, but...
Well, we'll never know. He never had that chance.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens in the future. Big round of applause, please, for Alex Hearn and for Rabbi Jonathan. Joshua Bono-Payne has said he deeply regrets his past anti-Semitic beliefs and accepts they continue to cause pain, acknowledging he must do more to rebuild trust with the Jewish community. He announced he's withdrawing as a Conservative council candidate, saying his past would distract from efforts to tackle anti-Semitism and will instead advise the party's Culture and Integration Commission on preventing the radicalisation of young men while continuing his work against extremism. I wish him well with that. Next on Free Speech Nation, we'll try to answer the burning questions of the week, including is rape a spectrum, and can fear of certain breed of dogs be construed as racism? See you in a couple of minutes. Bye.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. My comedian guests this evening are Steve and Alan and Miriam Elia. Welcome to the show, guys. Two of my favourite people. How you doing? You all right?
Doing all right, yeah. I mean, summer holidays. I'm just looking after the kids. I spent all day in a park, so now I'm pretty good at ropes and climbing up the pole.
Very well. Very good.
Could earn some money some way, couldn't
I'm
I?
doing exactly the same thing. I've been on a seesaw today.
Well done. Congratulations.
Seesaw. Are you looking very tan, Miriam?
Well, it's my Middle Eastern heritage.
Coming through there. Very nice, Dad. OK, well, look, let's get some questions from our audience. And our first one is from Mark.
Yes, good evening. I was just wondering if the NHS are actually ignoring the law.
Yes, why is the NHS ignoring the law? Well, an NHS trust has told transgender staff and patients they can continue using single-sex facilities based on their gender identity. Midlands Partnership University NHS Foundation Trust says there'll be no immediate change to its policies while it awaits further NHS guidance, despite a new equality code on single-sex bases coming into force this week. So, Miriam, this is maddening. It's like we've been told all the time, wait for the Supreme Court, wait for the guidance. Every time it's wait. And now it's going to take taxpayers' money, I bet, to sort this out, because someone's going to have to sue the trust to allow this to come into fruition. And this is going to be our money that goes to this.
That's mad, isn't it? But it's a huge bureaucracy, so you can't really expect anything less.
Well, that's their job, is to follow the law.
I kind of want to go in with a really basic sort of 60s educational poster and be like, this is a man. This is a woman.
They would they'd throw you out of the building.
Yeah,
they'd be like, that's anti-science.
Anti-science.
See, what's going on here? Why are these institutions not following the law of the land?
Yeah, that's the simple thing, isn't it? Whether you agree with it or not, if it's a law, you follow it. Otherwise, you're being unlawful. Simple. It seems rather simple. But look, we've got to think outside the box. This has been going on for so long. Clearly, the solutions we think we've got aren't working. I think it would be cheaper to the taxpayer to employ someone to walk behind the people who might need to use this toilet, just with their own porta potties. We could probably afford trans porta potties for everyone who can qualify. It's not a bad. It is a bad idea, but it's not the worst idea.
Steve, I've been doing this a few years now. That is the worst idea.
Oh, thank you.
That is definitely the worst idea that I've heard. A Midlands Partnership University NHS Foundation Trust spokesman said the Trust accepts the Supreme Court judgment and is implementing the EHRC Code of Practice through a structured implementation programme. A small number of policies are under formal review, informed by external legal advice and any relevant NHS England guidance as it becomes available. As a mental health and community provider, we must also balance our wider legal duties to protect safety, privacy, dignity, safeguarding and human rights, including for vulnerable patients. Well, look, our next question is from Roger.
Hello.
Hello.
Are Christians worse drivers?
Yes, are Christians worse drivers? And I like how you're wearing your sunglasses inside there. Very cool. That's what you've got the street cred, as they say. So, Christian motorist was told his car insurance could not continue unless he removed handmade Jesus Loves You stickers from his vehicle. Go Skippy Insurance informed Simon Chandra that its underwriting department declined the modification done on the vehicle as per stickers added onto the vehicle. There is a photo of it there. It says, oh my gosh, Jesus loves you. Oh dear, we can't insure. I mean...
Much on the other side.
To be fair, thinking about this through, Steve, Jesus loves him. He doesn't need insurance. He's got the greatest insurance there is, surely.
Isn't that the worry, though? Do you not think, actually, people who don't believe in an afterlife might be safer drivers? Because if you don't slow down on this corner, that's it, oblivion forever. So but some people might be going like, oh, let's meet the relatives.
You're going down the Richard Dawkins route.
Fully on the Richard Dawkins thing.
Fully on the Richard Dawkins side.
I mean, this is a free speech thing, isn't it? Like, write whatever you want. As long as it's not breaking the law, do it. And come on, you're an insurance. Do you really think he's going to be a dangerous driver, or someone's really going to be like, oh, you know what, I hate Jesus so much, I'm scratching that car?
Well, you say that, and I think that is a real possibility.
Yeah, it is. In the same
we've
way
seen
that
churches being attacked.
You've seen churches being attacked.
But if you hate the religion that much, attack the church kind of makes sense. Attach a Nissan. No, it makes no sense. This will show them.
But with religious extremism, when have we ever talked about sense?
Yeah, they just see that, they get triggered.
They just get triggered and go and kill a bunch of people. Like, if I put a massive Mogan David on my car, the insurers might go, woo. Unfortunately, it's just a symptom of where we are, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's a pretty insane policy, I think.
As a non-religious person, I quite like that you can tell which ones they are by the outside of the car. you normally the fish on the back, but this one's easier to spot.
I think it's a great car, and I wish him the best.
OK, well, look, our next question's from Chris.
Is rape a spectrum?
OK. Is rape a spectrum? Chris, I'm very sorry to make you ask that question. A Scottish Green SNP has been accused of trivialising the trauma of rape after comments they made in a viral interview. Reform have called the Scottish Greens to suspend the whip from Manavannan and start an investigation following the comments. The Under Fire Green MSP has said their comments has been clearly misrepresented and taken out of context by Reform. Let's have a look at a clip.
And I think our distaste towards rape is towards rape. It's towards the idea of, and the definitely is a demonization of rape, in the sense of it is a spectrum.
I mean, look, he says it's part of a wider context. What I've understood is afterwards he's kind of said that's not really what I was saying, and you had to place it within the wider. But just on that clip, that is pretty terrible.
My jaw has just dropped. I can't get it back up again. These people are completely amoral. I'm sorry, there's no other way of saying. They like to explain away evil.
Well, it's very hard to disagree with that.
Oh, yeah.
There's I can't, you could say what murderers are a spectrum of murderers. Sometimes it's light murder, sometimes it's a very harsh murder, but it's a spectrum. What does that even mean?
Well, to answer that question, it doesn't mean anything, because in the longer part of the interview, he says, it's in a spectrum, but everything within the spectrum can be equally as bad. Well, then you also don't understand the concept of a spectrum. So he's getting this wrong in all directions. It's word salad, but the most offensive version.
And the thing is, he is an MSP now. Yeah. And they'd be very offended because it's they, them, they're non-binary. But this person's here on a student visa. They won't even be able to see out their term unless they are given another visa. And he or they, them is arguing for...
He's don't entertain their reality.
No.
They're pathological liars.
It must be
amoral people who would like to harm you.
I would say, Miriam, I don't know if you know what you're talking about, because they, them have got long hair, so we don't know. We don't know.
Hair is a spectrum. I know that much. Yeah. And I'm right down the bottom end of that spectrum.
I'll tell you what. Hair is a monster. There's just no way to justify really what he said. It's horrible. It's disgusting. And with rapes obviously being at this kind of record low in terms of conviction, it's mental to be talking about. Like, what's his point? What's he trying to say? Why talk like this? Well, the Scottish Greens SNP Hugh Manavannan said this clip has been clearly misrepresented, taken out of control for a much longer interview. As a survivor of sexual violence who has spoken openly about my recovery, I'm clear that we need to focus on reducing the likelihood of perpetrators of rape reoffending. The point I made about demonisation was not all rapists fit a stereotype and that all kinds of men can and do commit it. The vast majority of sexual violence is from men who know the victims personally. Victims should be believed regardless of who the perpetrator was, and rapists should be punished in the strongest terms. Well, look, our final question for the moment is from Jeff.
Hi, Josh. Is fear of pit bulls racist?
Is fear of pit bulls racist? So the Odyssey star John Bernthal says that those who have the view that pit bulls are aggressive are racist. He said it's just racism. It's dog racism. To be afraid of a breed of dog is completely ridiculous. It's like being afraid of somebody for their race or sexual orientation. It's completely ridiculous. Look, if a pit bull bites you, it's going to suck. But they're no more likely to bite you than a chihuahua or another.
That's a great analogy. That's a great analogy.
So, Jeff, first of all, Jeff, would you prefer to be bit by a pit bull or a chihuahua?
I prefer not to be bitten at all.
Good point.
Well, that's very dog racist of you.
But given the choice, maybe a chihuahua.
Maybe a chihuahua, yes. So, I mean, this is crazy, right? Everything's racist. Leo Percy's got a thing every day. What's racist today? Well,
I
there we
noticed
go.
there's this recurring theme where they have this thing about predatorial or dangerous animals that they kind of have this empathy towards them, that they're actually, the sharks are really nice, you know? And
they're misunderstood.
We have to conserve the sharks because they're misunderstood. So this happened in Australia. There was a record number of shark attacks because they've been conserving the sharks. But it's the same kind of thing. They find a very, very dangerous... A pit bull they attack children, small children. This is quite well recorded. And they form this kind of deep, loving bond with a, you know, potentially very dangerous animal. Well, and then use these phobias to explain why you might be scared of something which is totally rational. When I took my son to see, Little Red Riding Hood now in a woke production of Little Red Riding Hood, they said that the wolf was actually the nice guy and that Grandma was an evil wolfophobe or something.
Grandmother killing is a spectrum. Can we be aware of
What's the wolf, they, them?
Really, he was only reacting to the grandma's phobia. So it's the same kind of thing with this pit bull.
with this pit bull thing. Yeah, I mean, you know, when we're doing headliners, the most abuse I've ever received from anything is when I spoke out for the pit bull ban. And that was like real abuse, saying, if I see you in the street, I'm going to get you, type of thing. So people feel very, very, as opposed to just, you know, the random stuff.
The normal death that I send you.
That stuff's easy. But people feel very attached to their dogs. I can appreciate that, but at the same time, this is a dog that has been proven, a breed of dog that has been proven to murder children.
Look, it's the original question, like, which would you rather be bitten by? The answer is because which has got the more powerful jaws, isn't it? It's not that you have to hate a dog. It's if you're going to be bitten by something, you want something where you're like, oh, get off, rather than, oh, my arm's no longer attached. That's just true, isn't it? So that's not. It's just pointing out that breed is stronger. Now, the XL bully argument, actually, there's a question about whether it's been bred for certain temperaments. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. The bigger jaw. If you've got a dog that looks like it's a weightlifter, you're slightly more scared of it than it's a dog that should be in a handbag, right? That's a debate that you can have. But then to call it racism is ridiculous. It's not, is it? It's talking about dog. It's like, it's just conflating it with a ridiculous thing. But also, Odyssey star, he's from The Punisher: The Last Kill, a film where he just blows everyone's head up all the time. So, do you know what? We really should be nice. Well, maybe stop promoting all that violence in your Spider-Man film.
There we go. Well, look, next on Free Speech Nation, we'll talk about the journalist investigated by police for researching the dodgy ex-professor Jason Arde. Spike's Paul Birch joins me. See you in 2 minutes.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there. If you're heading off on holiday to other parts of Europe, it's a sunny and increasingly hot outlook across many parts of the Mediterranean. There may well be an isolated afternoon or evening thunderstorm, particularly across inland parts of Turkey, Greece and the Balkans, but many parts of Italy and the Western Mediterranean will stay entirely dry on Monday with plenty of strong August sunshine. Into the outlook the rest of the week, well, the temperatures remain in the mid to high 30s, perhaps even above 40 Celsius in places.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We've got a fine, sunny and increasingly hot week of weather on the way for many. The exception will be across the very far northwest of the UK, where we will see cloudier and wetter conditions at times, and that's courtesy of a weather front that's just going to slightly edge in from the Atlantic. But notice these colours of orange and red really turning exceptionally hot across parts of England and Wales by Wednesday and Thursday. Out there this evening, we still have the remnants of today's rain edging its way southwards into parts of the North Midlands, North Wales and maybe towards the Wash, but nothing more than a band of cloud really by the end of the night and bringing the odd very isolated light shower. It stays dry to the south with some potential fog patches in southwest England, but quite a warm night in the towns and the cities, lows of 15 or 16 degrees, for example, in Cardiff and indeed in London. A much chillier start to Monday, though, across more northern areas, temperatures certainly down into single figures in the countryside. But quite a blustery and showery start to the day in north-east Scotland. A few showers affecting Shetland and Orkney. Plenty of sunshine, though, for most of mainland parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Just the odd shower in coastal regions. And mostly dry for England and Wales first thing as well. With the strong sunshine, the temperatures will really quite quickly lift as we go through the course of the morning. And it's set to be a fine, dry and mostly sunny day for the vast majority of the UK. Still a few showers affecting the very far northeast of Scotland and a fairly brisk northwesterly wind here, so it will feel on the cool side for August. Otherwise, though, pleasantly warm in the sunshine and not as hot in the south as indeed it was on Sunday. Highs are around 26 or 27 degrees Celsius. Now for Tuesday, possibly the odd spot or two of rain in western Scotland and generally a little bit cloudy in some northern areas for a time, but otherwise plenty of sunshine for many, particularly in England and Wales, with some warmth spreading northwards through the course of the day, so temperatures perhaps into the mid-20s even for Scotland. But the heat really builds on Wednesday and indeed on Thursday. We could see the mid-30s Celsius in some spots, so some exceptionally hot weather on the way.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain,
with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Is accountability racist? The Cambridge professor, ex-professor now, who resigned following plagiarism allegations, says the backlash against him has been driven by his race, with similarly minded people arguing a white academic wouldn't have faced the same scrutiny. It's also been revealed that the journalist who investigated Mr. Ardé, Dr. Ardé, faced a Scotland Yard investigation, being told to stop contacting him because his mental health had been affected by the scrutiny. The Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Mark Rowley, has apologised for the investigation today.
Police is accused of press censorship for investigating a journalist who tried to expose a Cambridge professor who's alleged to have committed plagiarism. Jack Grove, a reporter for the Times Higher Education, a 4-month investigation. Why was that necessary, Commissioner?
We dropped the ball on that one. It should have been screened out earlier on as not requiring investigation.
When you say screened out, it should have been one phone call. Yeah, no further action.
Nothing requiring police action. It's sat on an officer's workload and he made a couple of phone calls, which in hindsight we shouldn't have done that. So big organisation will make the odd mistake.
Apology to the reporter involved?
Yeah, we shouldn't have made that call to him and said that.
That was actually a couple of days ago. So, are there serious questions about institutional racism to be asked, or is race yet again being used to deflect from legitimate questions about accountability? Well, I'm now joined by the former police officer and counter-terrorism specialist, Paul Birch. Welcome to the show. Thank you. This story's been going on now for a couple of weeks, rightly so, but I think this is the most kind of insidious and scary part of the story, that you had a journalist, Jack Grove, of Times Higher Education, who was basically told that the police had investigated the Met for 4 months? Because of a complaint from then Professor Ardern. Now, when you have somebody who is and his account, Jack Grove's, is I think he sent 3 emails during that time, asking very politely, non-abusive, just genuine inquiries as to try and sort out what was going on as he could understand it. Should the police have got involved?
No, of course not. I think this really is the gift that keeps on giving, this case. No, they shouldn't have got involved. As the Commissioner rightly said, it should have been screened out after the first phone call was received by either it was the Professor himself or his particularly aggressive firm of lawyers, Carter Ruck, I don't know, who actually did make that call in the first place. But yes, it should have been screened out. The fact that it wasn't screened out straight away is quite disturbing. And there are a number of reasons for that, possibly. We can assume that when the person got the call, received the call, this individual, the officer receiving the call, might have thought that, well, this is clearly nonsensical. It's a journalist doing his job. The supposed victim of the offence doesn't like legitimate scrutiny and is trying to get that curtailed. So common sense would tell you that you would just not go any further with that. But because the way police at certain levels has been captured by this sort of progressive ideology, either that person was a true believer and just thought, OK, there might be something to this, or, as is quite likely, this does happen quite often, they wanted to screen it out. It would have to be supervised. Any time a person makes a decision whether to progress with an inquiry or to leave it at that stage, it would have to be supervised. So a supervisory officer would have looked at this and either, if the original employee had wanted to screen it out, they might have thought, well, this, we can't do this. It's an allegation of racism.
Well, it wasn't even, I don't believe it was an allegation. It was an allegation of harassment.
Yeah, and I think in some of the correspondence I've seen, there has been described as a racist element to it. Whether that was in this particular instance, I don't know. But the fact is the professor was high profile. He's had a firm of lawyers working for him as well, working with him. And who knows, the supervisory officer may, obviously I wasn't there, I don't know, may have thought that this could be potentially damaging for that person's career prospects or for the organisation if they didn't see it through. And also it took 4 months.
So reading between the lines here, it sounds like there are people who are just covering their bottoms.
Yeah,
in terms of, like, they don't want to be perceived as being, if there is this racial element to it, as being racist. So we better see it through. Let's commit 4 months of resources to this before finding nothing.
I would imagine that probably sat in an in-tray for 3 months and 25 days, and then they suddenly realise, we've had this sitting there for a while.
And they knew that he was a journalist. Jack Grove was a journalist.
Yeah.
He said to them, "Do you know I'm a journalist?"
Yeah.
They're aware. Surely that is a red flag in investigation. This is journalism.
Of course. It's harassment. A journalist. It's a journalist doing his job. It's a part of a functioning democracy, right? A journalist just trying to call out something that he thinks may be a bit wrong here. So yes, and also when they told him, they contacted him to inform him that he was no longer under investigation. He didn't even know that he was in the first place. So they couldn't even do that properly.
Now, there's a Professor, David Harris. He's a professor at Plymouth University.
Yeah.
And similarly, Dr. Ardern made a complaint to the Met as well. They then went to the Devon
and Cornwall.
Cornwall. And Devon and Cornwall looked at it and went, this is ridiculous, and just nothing happened, rightly so.
Yeah.
So what's going on with the Met? And is there going to be now, Mark Rowley there, he's sort of laughing off, oh yes, we should have done something about it. Well, are they going to do anything about this? They need retraining at the very least.
Well, the Met, because of its size, because of its history, and the fact that it's, or perceived history, and the fact that it's, in London with the movers and shakers and the progressive classes, is much more susceptible to this sort of thing. I think the whole entire police across the country has been captured by this sort of ideology, but the Met is the forerunner, it's at the forefront, and it's the one that sort of suffers the most with this. Yes, he laughed it off. I noticed there that was, as far as he was concerned, I think that was the end of the discussion. Yeah, we shouldn't have done any more with it. Well, this is 4 months, as you say. A lot of money was probably spent on that investigation in terms of officers' time.
And there's another story this week that came out about how a man was basically allowed out repeatedly to murder, to rape.
Yeah.
Those resources there should be there.
Yeah, I think I heard Maurice Glassman in an earlier segment saying anyone who's in prison for online sort of hate and tweet-related crime should be let out straight away, and then they should be going after the ones, to fill up the prison places, going after the real criminals, so to speak. And he's completely right. Yes, there are lots of people where the police have dropped the ball in a much more serious way. Repeat offenders out on the streets, people bumping into their sort of attackers in the street and they didn't even know that the person was released. So, to spend time and resources going after a journalist doing his legitimate job is just ridiculous. And it's not a laughing matter, I don't think.
No, it isn't.
In any way.
But what is laughing matter, I'm very much looking forward to this book finally coming out. Hope it's going to happen. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. Please, a big round of applause to the specialist counter-terrorism specialist Paul Burt. Next on Free Speech Nation, I'll be joined by Brendan O'Neill as we pay tribute to the free speech champion Rod Liddle. See you in a couple of minutes.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Yes, the Malaysian government has announced that it will renew the search for Malaysia Airlines flight MH370, which disappeared 10 years ago without a trace.
Yes, the plane was carrying 239 people from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Previous attempts to locate the plane have all failed, leaving the families of those on board without any kind of closure.
Well, for more on this, let's speak to Terry Tozer, a former airline pilot and author of Confessions of an Airline Pilot, Why Planes Crash. Terry, you sound like the perfect man to talk to about this, because this is perhaps the biggest aviation mystery of our modern age.
Yeah, it is, and obviously a great tragedy as well. It's good to know that they're going to have another crack at trying to find it.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is just health and safety gone mad. It's not the role of public authorities to be telling people what's for their best interest. And the reality is it's probably better to take the chance of a tree branch falling on you than going out in the sun and getting getting burnt in the sun. But the reality is, the reason why these councils are saying you've got to stay out of underneath the trees is they don't want anybody to get struck by a branch which they have a liability to, whilst they don't have a liability for anybody getting sunburnt. So it's all to do with public liability. I mean, if you look at East Cheshire Council, for example, in 2024, they had to pay out £500,000 because a branch fell on somebody.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In my hand, I have a colander. I have a piece of paper. Yes, you have one too. So I'm going to run it so you can see me. So I think what you do is you shine, you indicate, you tell me what to do, and I'll do it for you.
You never look at the sun directly.
Yep,
you
good.
allow the light to go through the colander, and that'll actually act as a pinhole camera and project images of the sun onto the piece of paper, and then you can look at the piece of paper and see the eclipse take place. Simple as that. You can do it also by using binoculars or a telescope and projecting an image through from them onto a piece of paper.
Yeah.
That will work just as well. Or get a bucket of water, let it settle, and look in the bucket of water, and you'll see the image of the sun in the water, and then you can observe the eclipse that way.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Rod Liddle, one of Britain's best-known and often controversial newspaper columnists, has died aged 66 after a short illness. A former editor of BBC Radio 4's Today programme, he went on to become a fiery regular on The Sunday Times, The Sun and The Spectator, amongst others. Admired for his sharp wit and fearless opinions, and just as often criticised for them, Mr Liddle remained one of the most distinctive figures in British journalism for more than 4 decades. Well, we are joined now by the chief political writer, Spiked Brendan O'Neill. Brendan, welcome to the show. Did you know Rod?
I did know Rod, yes. We met quite a few times over the years. We spoke at the same kinds of conferences. We had a few drinks with each other. He often appeared on my Spiked podcast. So I knew him pretty well. I admired him enormously. He also admired Spiked, which always made me very happy. His death, I think, is an incalculable loss to British journalism because he really was one of the few remaining hacks. He would probably quite happily have called himself a hack. One of the few remaining ones who was happy to, puncture the humorless consensus of modern Britain, especially that's coming from the left, this kind of boring, staid, eccentric politics that counts for progressivism these days. He was probably the most able and definitely the funniest slayer of all of those ridiculous ideas. And we're going to miss him enormously, I think, in the coming months and years.
I think one of the most surprising elements of people would be were people across the political spectrum who you wouldn't otherwise think would have been absolutely devastated by his death and are speaking out about their grief. That's quite a rare thing, certainly in this time of tribalism.
Yeah, definitely. I think people appreciated, even if they didn't agree with everything he wrote, I mean, who agrees with everyone all of the time, but they appreciated that he was funny, that he was, he believed in what he said it with humor. He said it sometimes in order to wind people up, in order to be contrary. He had all these kind of he held a flickering candle for a very old style of English journalism, which is being provocative, satirical, making fun of the upper classes. I mean, British journalism has been doing that for hundreds of years, and he really held a candle for that. But, the way in which he just punctured the kind of conformist mantras of our time, trans women are women, Israel is genocidal, mass immigration is enriching, all of these things you are supposed to say on pain of being called a bigot if you refuse to say them. He just set fire to all that kind of nonsense. He ridiculed it. He made fun of it. And I think that was the great thing, that he made us laugh at these things rather than worrying about them too much.
I think that kind of bravery is under threat, that kind of speaking out, that kind of rejecting of what I was about to say far left narrative, but it seemingly has become the mainstream narrative.
It's definitely under threat. And you could see that even when Rod was still around, because almost every week there would be some kind of anti-Rod fury on the internet, because the left in particular, and as you say, that it's become pretty much centrist opinion now, mainstream so-called progressive opinion is all of those ideas that he made fun of. They just can't handle being disagreed with. They certainly can't handle being made fun of. And they couldn't handle the existence of this man who was, taking the mick, ripping the mick out of their ideas. They thought that was a cancelable offence. If you look at, in particular, people are mad about what he said about Islam. He often made fun of Islam in a very fruity, bawdy, blasphemous way. And people are saying he was an Islamophobe, he was a bigot. I think we're going to look back in horror at the fact that you couldn't even make fun of Islam these days without being called a bigot. Not everyone has to like Islam. Not everyone has to like your religion. And the fact that he didn't like Islam, in my mind, does not put a black mark against his name whatsoever. That was his opinion, and he was entirely entitled to it. So he was a testament to how savagely the parameters of acceptable thought have shrunk over the past few years, that someone like him could stand out so much because he was saying things that most people would consider commonsensical.
Yeah, well, that's it. And then, of course, as you point out, the far left just can't seem to take a joke anymore, or seem very consciously to try to not acknowledge that it was a joke, taking things out of context. Now, obviously, Anne Widdecombe, her murder recently, Charlie Kirk before that, we've seen again, just on places like Blue Sky, just this disgusting people being happy at an individual's death just because he had different ideas.
Absolutely. Dancing on their graves. In the case of Rod Liddle, dancing on his grave before it's even been dug. I mean, just really grotesque stuff. The great irony, of course, is that Rod, wherever he is, will be laughing his head off. He would have seen this coming a million miles away. It made me miss him even more because he would have wrote such a fantastic column about those kinds of people. But, you know, yes, dancing on the graves of people they disagree with. I think that is like, I described it last week as a cancerous outgrowth of cancel culture. Because we live in a time where if you hold the supposedly wrong opinions on all sorts of issues, then they want to cancel you. They want to destroy your life. They try to drive you out of polite society. And it's a short step from that to celebrating when someone dies. You know, these people are essentially breathing a sigh of relief that finally a man they disagreed with, a man who dared to mock them and make fun of them, has died. They are delighted because it means that he's been censored in the most extreme fashion possible. So it really speaks to that quite savage intolerance that exists on sections of the left, that they even take pleasure in the death of their opponents. And I think that's incredibly grim.
It is grim, but you know what, Brendan? We have people like yourself to continue that mantle. You've got a lot to live up to. Thank you very much for joining us, Brendan O'Neill. That is the end of the first hour of Free Speech Nation. Don't go away, there's plenty more to come, including a GB News exclusive. I'll be joined by the detective who has been sacked for a joke about trans people. See you then.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We've got a fine, sunny and increasingly hot week of weather on the way for many. The exception will be across the very far northwest of the UK, where we will see cloudier and wetter conditions at times, and that's courtesy of a weather front that's just going to slightly edge in from the Atlantic. But notice these colours of orange and red really turning exceptionally hot across parts of England and Wales by Wednesday and Thursday. Out there this evening, we still have the remnants of today's rain, edging its way southwards into parts of the North Midlands, North Wales and maybe towards the Wash, but nothing more than a band of cloud really by the end of the night and bringing the odd very isolated light shower. It stays dry to the south with some potential fog patches in southwest England, but quite a warm night in the towns and the cities, lows of 15 or 16 degrees, for example, in Cardiff and indeed in London. A much chillier start to Monday, though, across more northern areas. Temperatures certainly down into single figures in the countryside. But quite a blustery and showery start to the day in northeast Scotland. A few showers affecting Shetland and Orkney. Plenty of sunshine, though, for most of mainland parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Just the odd shower in coastal regions. And mostly dry for England and Wales first thing as well. With the strong sunshine, the temperatures will really quite quickly lift as we go through the course of the morning. And it's set to be a fine, dry and mostly sunny day for the vast majority of the UK. Still a few showers affecting the very far northeast of Scotland and a fairly brisk northwesterly wind here, so it will feel on the cool side for August. Otherwise, though, pleasantly warm in the sunshine and not as hot in the south as indeed it was on Sunday. Highs are around 26 or 27 degrees Celsius. Now for Tuesday, possibly the odd spot or two of rain in western Scotland and generally a little bit cloudy in some northern areas for a time, but otherwise plenty of sunshine for many, particularly in England and Wales, with some warmth spreading northwards through the course of the day, so temperatures perhaps into the mid-20s even for Scotland. But the heat really builds on Wednesday and indeed on Thursday. We could see the mid-30s Celsius in some spots, so some exceptionally hot weather on the way.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome to Orlis Santi by Domes Resorts, and there's just 2 weeks left to see how you too could be enjoying the 5-star lifestyle. First, you can bank an incredible £60,000. We'll also give you a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Sorry. Plenty more still to come on Free Speech Nation. A GB News exclusive. I'll be joined by the detective constable who has been sacked for a joke about trans people. She's now been placed in the same category as rapists and murderers. Ever noticed that families of victims of serious crimes always say the same thing? That the experience shouldn't be politicised? Well, it's not just you. We'll discuss that in detail later. And should an author who celebrated the October 7th attack be supported by their publisher? I'll be joined by a colleague of hers who is threatening to boycott the publishing business. First, though, it's the news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Josh. Very good evening to you. 8 o'clock. Let's get you up to date with the headlines. The alleged cartel boss, Daniel Kinahan, has been charged with organised crime offences in Dublin. He was on board an Irish government jet which landed at a military airport just outside the capital earlier this evening, following his extradition from Dubai. Kinahan was then taken to the Special Criminal Court in a bomb-proof van as part of a huge security operation. He will be later transferred 50 miles outside the city to his new home in Portlaoise Prison. The boxing promoter returns to Ireland a decade after escaping assassination and fleeing into exile in the UAE, where he was arrested in April. He denies being the leader of the Kinahan organised crime group, which the UK's National Crime Agency says has been involved in drug trafficking and firearms offences for more than 20 years. He denies wrongdoing. The Israeli Prime Minister says he has rejected the 15-point plan for Gaza set out by the Board of Peace. Benjamin Netanyahu has released a statement ruling out any Israeli withdrawal from Gaza until Hamas disarms and says there will be no Palestinian state there or in the occupied West Bank as long as he's the leader. Last month, President Trump announced a breakthrough in his plan to end the war, which both Israel and Hamas agreed to. Palestinian authorities that say that at least 1,100 people have been killed by Israeli attacks on Gaza since that ceasefire was announced in October. Andy Burnham will set off on a tour of the UK tomorrow in an effort to improve the government's connection with the public. Downing Street says the Prime Minister will be in listening mode when he asks people how he can improve their lives. He's expected to announce a number of policies to help tackle the cost of living, and he is expected to set out how he intends to improve the country's high street. It follows cuts to energy costs and a £2 cap on bus fares. The Defence Secretary Wes Streeting has urged Western allies to boost Ukraine's air defences before winter, when he says Vladimir Putin will use the cold conditions as a weapon. The governor of Kharkiv says 2 people were killed there earlier and 27 injured after a Russian strike on an apartment building in the northern city. At least 8 people were also injured when missiles and drones struck residential buildings in Odessa, where fires broke out in the historic city centre. 3 people, meanwhile, have been reported dead and 25 injured in a Ukrainian drone attack on the Russian city of Belgorod. A state of emergency has been declared in the Canadian province of British Columbia. Tens of thousands of people were ordered to flee their homes in the west of the country as a fast-moving wildfire nearly doubled in size overnight. The Bold Range fire now occupies almost 40 square miles across a number of districts. Authorities have said the fire has flamed so high it has created its own weather system. Finally, a new record for the number of days in a year where temperatures pass 30 degrees or more somewhere in the country has been broken. The mark was passed again in south-east England, bringing the total of 30-degree days this year to 35. It breaks the previous record of 34, set in 1995. And with temperatures set to rise later this week, drought is likely to be declared across more parts of the country. As a 5th heat wave is looming, there's no significant rain forecast. You're up to date with the headlines. Now it is back to Josh.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. A detective constable has been sacked by her police force over a joke she made about trans people. Rachel Fletcher was reported by male colleagues for using the term cocks in frocks to criticise Northumbria Police's guidelines which permit biological men who identify as women to insist on being strip searched by a female officer. She was fired last month, just about 10 days ago or so, after being found guilty of gross misconduct and put on a blacklist where she joins ex-Met police officers Wayne Couzens, who murdered Sarah Everard, and serial rapist David Carrick. Well, in a broadcast exclusive, Rachel joins me now. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This is one of the most maddening stories that I've heard or read of over the last few years. Let's start from the beginning. You were a police officer. You started about 23 years ago or so?
Yes, I started working for Northumbria Police as a member of police staff 23 years ago, and then became a police officer in 2009. And then I've always been a constable because that's where you do the most actual police work. The higher you go, the further away you get from actual police work, and it's police work that I like. So I became a detective in 2019. And have been working in safeguarding, so child protection, dealing with all manner of child abuse and neglect, and abuse and neglect of vulnerable people. For example, adults in old people's homes or with mental health difficulties, that kind of thing. So some quite harrowing things that I've seen.
That's what I was going to say is, that you've seen kind of the worst of humanity.
Yes,
frankly.
Definitely.
And before we get to what was specifically said, it's known that the police officers, as well as people who work in the ambulance service and NHS, they have a gallows sense of humour. That's, I imagine, how you survive.
Definitely, yes, and especially in the department that I worked in. We spent all day, every day, talking about sexual offences and describing the mechanics of them, talking about body parts that were used, to commit these offences. And certainly when you interview victims and suspects, you have to talk about those body parts. And you often use words that the victims in particular choose. You want people to talk about things in words that they're comfortable with. And so we've probably heard every word to describe every body part possible. And so there's a real sort of desensitisation in the office to any kind of language. So while there is some crass language used, it's completely normal in that environment.
OK, so let's talk about the specifics here. So you've, I believe, been under investigation for a couple of years now.
Yes, that's right. I was first told I was going to be reported for wrongdoing in 2024, January 2024, but really it started in 2023 when I noticed that the force had adopted self-ID. I found this really concerning, and so I had sent emails to the D&I team to ask how that would work in conjunction with our strategy for tackling violence against women and girls, searching policy and custody, crime recording and single-sex facilities for staff and officers in our buildings.
Remind people of self-ID. Basically, I could just go, I'm a woman.
Yes.
And that's it. For all the purposes now,
yes.
I will be treated as a woman.
Yes, and for safeguarding, that's a disaster. People can identify as whatever they want, of course they can, and it's their right to do so, and it's not for the police to tell them that they can't. However, for policing, it's really important that we stick to facts and evidence, and particularly when we're dealing with crimes that are mainly committed by men, whether we like that or not, it's really important that we know who is who and we can clearly say who is who without fear. So I'd asked some questions about how this was going to work and was basically not given any answers, but I was reported for upsetting somebody who worked in the D&I team.
Yeah, because I imagine they couldn't answer you.
I don't know, they didn't try. So I may have made an exclamation with some colourful language as to my assessment of the situation, which has been reported on social media. However, I was furious because it was discriminatory. So I found some like-minded colleagues and we got together and formed a working group to try and tackle what we saw as a really serious issue in policing. And that then became Police Scene UK. SEEN standing for Sex Equality and Equity Network. And we wanted to tackle this in policing across the UK because, as I say, policing has to be based on facts and evidence. If we want to protect vulnerable people, we need to be able to identify who those vulnerable people are, which ones are which. So we got together and started challenging police leaders, basically, in our force and others, which obviously made us very unpopular. Part of that enforce was to put comments on the intranet under relevant articles, things like the power of pronouns and various sort of inspirational training articles, which told us that we must respect people's identity and we must accept it if somebody tells us they are the opposite sex to what they are. Exactly, which is what I said. And so this was met with much hostility from the force, and we were basically told we were offensive, we should stop putting these comments on. And eventually in January 2024, I was told by my superintendent that my comments on the intranet were very offensive, and as a result, he was reporting me to professional standards. And he also banned me from putting any more comments on the intranet. Obviously that was discriminatory also, because none of my comments have ever been found to have breached any professional standards of behaviour. They were perfectly polite and professional and respectful to everyone. I was just trying to say we're behaving unlawfully and we're breaching our public sector equality duty. And so he had reported various comments I'd made on the intranet to professional standards. But because they couldn't actually discipline me for those, they went on a bit of a fishing trip to find things that they could try and construe as discriminatory or offensive, and that's what I've ended up being investigated for.
And that investigation was, like you say, about two and a bit years?
2.5 years.
2.5 years, and that time you weren't allowed to...
Yeah, in that time I was removed from my position. I was put on restricted duties. I wasn't allowed any public contact. And I did actually see through a case that I've been working on since 2020. The force asked me to return to the case in the interests of justice because the victims didn't want to proceed without my input, because we'd spent so much time together while I investigated it. So I was really grateful that I got to see that through to the end and help get justice for the victims. But aside from that, I was just office bound.
OK, well, let's talk about these accusations which they found you guilty of. There seems to be on sort of two levels. One is that you said the term cocks in frocks.
Yes.
Now, you saw someone like Graham Linehan make a joke on X. He gets arrested by 5 police officers at the airport, armed police. He wins £25,000. You know, that is... You know, the reality is, biologically, the fact is that the majority of trans-identifying men are men still who have their body parts.
Yes.
So what you're saying is not a falsehood.
It's not, but I didn't actually say cocks in frocks. What I said was I was talking about the unlawful search guidance that was in force at the time. So our chief
and that's still an ongoing situation where they
there is, yes.
didn't go to the Supreme Court. Sex matters. We talked about it last week.
That's right. Yeah. So my Chief Constable Vanessa Jardine was the architect of the original unlawful search guidance, which basically said that self-ID was the rule, so that men who said they were women could search vulnerable women in custody and vice versa. And I could be made to strip search a man, and if I objected to doing that, I could have a hate crime recorded against me. As a police officer, that's the last thing you want. And so I was talking about a new recruit going to do her first ever strip search, which is a daunting task at the best of times. It's very degrading for anyone who's being searched. And imagine she, you know, was sort of doing what you do and then saw a penis. But as I said before, I used the crass language that is commonplace in the office. That's what I was talking about. And the reason I was talking about it was because most of my colleagues didn't even know the guidance existed. The Women's Rights Network report had come out, state-sanctioned sexual assault, which basically blew the whole thing wide open. And my colleagues, when we had these discussions, were absolutely shocked.
So that's not the terrible thing that women working for the police would be forced to be dealing with a man's private parts.
Yes.
But the bad thing is that you said that terrible expression. Well, let's talk about another thing they said, which was that you said, I believe, two things that sort of jumped out at me. One is that a joke that men shouldn't be allowed after 9 o'clock, and also that. Well, they're saying that you said that all men are rapists, but it sounds like you said, which I've heard many times, that all rapists are men, which is also a truth.
Yes, yes. So while talking about the problem with self-ID and gender ideology in policing, I've had many conversations at work where I've talked about the reason crime recording is so important. We must get it right because 99% of sexual offences are committed by males, 88% of victims of those offences are female. If we get that wrong, we're at the beginning of the pipeline that ends with men and women's prisons. If we're going to record rapists as female when the Sexual Offences Act says that a penis must be used to commit this offence, so it can only be done by men, then that's how we end up with support services being obfuscated and not targeted at the right place. We don't know where to send resources. And as I say, we end up with men and women's prisons. So I said, all rapists are men because you must use a penis.
Of course. I mean, this is a self-evident truth.
Yes.
So you're being fired for racism. I'm sorry, for being sexist, essentially.
Yes.
So you've got a police officer, decades of experience, seeing through the most heinous crimes that exist, and for these innocuous, what I would certainly argue, innocuous comments, certainly not offensive, then that is what they pursued you for years to be able to now, 10 days ago, fire you.
I mean, the reason for it, that's what they've used, but the reason for it is the constant challenging of them for their unlawful policy, procedure and guidance. And with policing, we've challenged all of this at the highest level. The policing minister, MPs, government ministers, we've written letters to everyone we can think of.
Well, you were found legally right.
Well, exactly, yes. And all we're trying to do is make sure that policing is done properly because we've all given our lives to this service and we want it to work for the people who we are supposed to serve. You don't join the police and promise to serve the public and not mean it. It's a career, it's not just a job.
But what's the situation now? You've lost your job. I assume I know you're taking this further, aren't you? Is this using the Maya Forstater ruling?
Yes, absolutely, yes. So I will be appealing the dismissal, but also I had an employment tribunal claim lodged in 2024 anyway because of the discriminatory treatment. That's been stayed until this process has been completed and it's now been scheduled for November next year. when the tribunal will actually go ahead.
And in the meantime, you're essentially unemployed.
Yes,
I am. Where
yeah.
you could be out there solving crimes, so solving these horrors.
Yes.
And this is how you're treated by Northumberland Police. It's a shocking story. Thank you so much for coming and sharing it. We can only hope that long-term justice is served. I don't really know what to say. I read about it. Julie Bindel wrote about it. Joe Partosh wrote about it, and I was sort of screaming at the computer. I hope that people are screaming at home, because this is the worst, frankly, of the system.
Yes.
So anyway, big round of applause, please. Northumbria Police declined to comment when approached by GB News. Next on Free Speech Nation.
Earlier this week, I made the announcement. I'm transgender. I'm a woman. I identify as sometimes identifying as a woman for purposes of basketball, professional basketball. So I'll be declaring for the WNBA draft in 2027 as well.
It's now the Cock and a Frock. We'll be answering the burning questions of the week, including, could that man pass a woman? Before we go to break, please, a big round of applause again. Rachel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition, from 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. My comedian guests are Steve and Alan and Miriam Ello. We're going to go straight into our first question, the very famous Anton.
Being cancelled.
Should Amanda Knox be cancelled? Textbook. Should Amanda Knox be cancelled? This is because of Meredith Kercher's sister has called for an Edinburgh Fringe show by Amanda Knox, who was twice convicted and acquitted of her murder, to be cancelled. Stephanie Kircher said she could not fathom how rape and murder could be the subject of a comedy gig. Knox is under growing pressure to cancel it after a petition launched by a family friend gained more than 9,000 signatures now. Well, I haven't seen the show, so I can't speak to the content, but Miriam, I don't know if there's anything to suggest that she's talking about the rape and murder being funny. I imagine it's about her life and her experiences, which are legitimate.
Yeah.
Surely.
I think she should be allowed to do that. I mean, even if it's extremely dark and horrible, it's still her right to do that. So I can't imagine sort of shutting it down. But on the other hand, I understand that the family must be completely still devastated. But she was acquitted, wasn't she?
Well,
so we can't really...
Yeah, twice.
Maybe there's not enough evidence to convict her. If it was her, then she'd be in prison. But, you know, she obviously went through quite a lot of that time, so maybe this is her way of processing it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, absolutely. I mean, there's a question as really any censorship should be occurred at the Edinburgh Fringe. A couple of years ago, we saw Jerry Sadowitz. His show was cancelled. He's one of the greats, one of the original alternative comics. But of course, you can have empathy for the family and still recognise Amanda Knox's right to self-expression.
Yeah, this is definitely a show that I wouldn't do, but I don't wish to remove the right from someone else to do it. I wouldn't go and see a show like that particularly, but everyone else also has... No one's forced to see this show. There'll be some reviewers, I suppose, who could cry about it, but everyone else, avoid it if you don't like it. I mean, the topic itself, you don't know what the content's going to be like. According to some of the writing about it, there are some jokes where she equates the violence of the murder with the violence done to her reputation. I consider that to be a dumb sentence. But again, you've got the right to be dumb, you've got the right to be wrong. You can't shut people down for it. So I have the sympathy for the family. But of course, if you start there, where are you going to end up? I don't like this. This could be offensive. Let's get rid of that comedy show. Of course, if you do want to get the thing shut down, get the bar staff to complain. That's what Jerry Sadowitz was up against. They can shut things down, can't they?
I think anybody who's actually performed at the Edinburgh Festival, it's Amanda Knox who I feel sorry for. It's a very painful couple of weeks. So our next question is from Ryan.
Hi, Josh. Does the Women's National Basketball Association know what a woman is?
So, does the Women's National Basketball Association know what a woman is? The Women's NBA, WNBA Commissioner announced that the league is in a meeting to review what a woman is after multiple former NBA stars announced plans to join the league. Former NBA player Royce White says he's declared for next year's WNBA draft, claiming he now identifies as a woman for the purposes of playing professional basketball. The 6'8" former first-round pick says he'll be unstoppable and has vowed to use the women's changing room if allowed to compete. So, Ryan, you're dressed obviously in your basketball outfit here. People at home can see that. And you're pretty tall yourself. I think you make a wonderful women's basketball player.
I might take it up as a sport, Josh, but no, seriously, I thought this whole madness in sport, in women's sport, had ended, and clearly this is a reminder that it hasn't. Clearly, trans women or people that identify as women that are clearly men are going to have physical advantages and are going to be stealing women's places.
Well, exactly. So now, Miriam, you have this case where you have these males and they are pushing the logic to its conclusion. If you are saying that anyone who self-IDs as a woman is a woman, then a man with a beard who's 6'8" can just go, I'm a woman now and I demand to be played. And they have said, it's a couple of NBA players that have said that they will sue if they are not allowed to play, because of course they would be technically the best in the league. To not be picked would only be discrimination.
Isn't it funny? I was just thinking, isn't it funny that they never have a discussion to find out what a man is?
Yes.
Have we ever had that?
Because we are. It's because we're so willing to show you. That's the problem.
It's never the other way around. There's never them go, we need to verify what a man is.
That's because men are more
It's always what a woman. I think essentially what they're doing is, maybe unconsciously, I'm not sure, is trying to sort of put women down a peg or two by becoming them.
You think that's what they're doing?
Yeah.
Well, I would say the opposite. I would say, well, you could argue, but not these gentlemen. I would say what they are doing, arguably, I don't know if it's brave or not, but it's men standing with women.
Yeah.
They're pointing out the madness here. What sort of backlash? I imagine, as a man who's got engaged, who's been involved in this debate for a couple of years now, the abuse that women get is far greater than what men get.
Yeah.
So they're not going to get anything like Sophie Cunningham, who is a female basketball player, who just got clotheslined the other day, and everybody said, yeah, she deserved it.
Yeah, well, look, I'm looking at that picture, 6'8" or something, beard. What a woman. My kind of, hey, I'm a leg man, and those legs are massive, so I'm all for it. Now, look, this testing the logic, and this is what you need to test the logic to actually work out if something makes sense or not. I'm not sure. I mean, no one asked the question, what's a man, because no one wants to join this club. Do you know what I mean? It's not the one. No one wants to be. Yeah, no one wants to be in the gents. They're the ones that have we on the floor. No one wants to play the man sport because the other blokes are really good at it. So there's no advantage to be. I'm going all Rory Sutherland here, but there's no advantage to be gained from sneaking into the men's clubs.
There is. You don't have to queue.
Well, you will, because you need to use a cubicle, because you don't have a... Well, let's not get through all the details of it, but not everyone gets to stand up. Here's the unfortunate thing, then. This will be the controversial thing. You could easily have a category of sport that is just for your bio women, or whatever they're called these days, right? Your bio women. Like non-bio and bio. That's how I like to separate them up. Because you have to admit that women's sports is a subcategory of sport. Sorry about this, because if it were a free-for-all and everyone gets a crack at it, all the medals go to those big tall dudes, don't they?
The thing about the free-for-all is that every time they create a mixed league, none of these trans-identifying men want. Surprisingly, it's like they go, oh, we can't play sport. We're being kicked out of sport. No, you're just being told to play in the correct category.
And that's the thing. It seems like controversial as a boo when I said women's sports is a subcategory, but as soon as you admit that, you can define whatever you want in that category, and it's no longer controversial.
It's amazing this is still going on. Well, look, our next question is from Delight.
Hello, Josh.
Hello.
Does Palestinianism make you stupid?
Yes, does Palestinianism make you stupid? So, a new jet purchased by the Republic of Ireland's government and used to transport the government all around. I'm not going to...
Taoiseach.
All right, Taoiseach.
Go on, say it.
Taoiseach. I always get in trouble every time I pronounce Irish words. Anyway, Taoiseach could face difficulties landing in fog as it was ordered without an Israeli-made navigational system. So this is a classic. I love this stuff because they deliberately are like, oh, it's made by Israelis. And whatever. So I hope it doesn't get foggy in Ireland.
They have great weather over there.
Fog in Ireland, haven't they? I mean, this shows you that Palestinianism and Israelis are coming up with technological developments in terms of health care to those people who are sort of rejecting Israel as the most evil country and people in the world. Well, you know what? Good luck surviving without some of these technological advances.
Just pure stupidity.
Yeah.
What? I mean, how do they even get into positions of power like that? I mean, it's just... But I find it very funny. It is funny because it's the fog in their minds is this hatred of Israel.
Ooh, that's very deep.
That is the real fog.
Yeah, they can't see through that fog.
They can't see through the fog, and maybe it will crash. Maybe, I don't know.
The stupidity is even deeper because this was an optional extra that was linked to Israel. Don't have that. There are some other bits that weren't, that were made in Israel that you can't not have a plane without. They got them because you can't opt out of them. Otherwise, it wouldn't fly. But the one you can make a big show about, no, we're not having that. We'll go to a different airport. We'll wipe the window on the outside.
They spent 56 million. Well, look, our final question from Sean.
Okay, well, it's kind of a left field question. Can you spy in Wetherspoons?
Can you spy in Wetherspoons? So customers at Wetherspoon pubs have been banned from using the recording function on Meta glasses amid fears the devices are being used to secretly film people. We go for a pint. We go to Wetherspoons after the show sometimes. And but have you seen these these glasses? You know, there's a Kate, one of the Jenners, one of the someone's. Kate,
one of those losers.
One of those women, real women, wear them.
I do find the whole thing slightly scary, really, because you could be spying on people, and not just in Wetherspoons. Obviously.
Wait a minute, are you wearing these glasses right now? Because you are aimed directly at my crotch!
I kind of... He was looking there as well, to be fair. No wonder you've had them darkened. I'm all in favour of this ban because I don't want there to be any footage of me being in a Wetherspoons. So when I pretend that, the car broke down on the way home, I don't want there to be footage that proves that wrong. So, I mean, it is a bit creepy, but this is the world we want to live in. Everyone's going to be able to just film you.
There'll be contact lenses soon where you'll have cameras on it.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Well, there is a worry that apparently some people have used them whilst, doing the coitus. And I wouldn't worry about that. I used to wear glasses before I got lasered, and no one wanted to sleep with me then, so I don't think you can film much.
Fair enough. Well, look, next on Free Speech Nation, we are going to be covering the story. We've got an in-depth look at the Nudge unit. Families of victims of horrific crimes, they always say, call for calm. Well, we're going to find out why. See you in a couple of minutes.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there. If you're heading off on holiday to other parts of Europe, it's a sunny and increasingly hot outlook across many parts of the Mediterranean. There may well be an isolated afternoon or evening thunderstorm, particularly across inland parts of Turkey, Greece and the Balkans, but many parts of Italy and the Western Mediterranean will stay entirely dry on Monday with plenty of strong August sunshine. Into the outlook for the rest of the week, well, the temperatures remain in the mid to high 30s, perhaps even above 40 Celsius in places.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We've got a fine, sunny and increasingly hot week of weather on the way for many. The exception will be across the very far northwest of the UK, where we will see cloudier and wetter conditions at times, and that's courtesy of a weather front that's just going to slightly edge in from the Atlantic. But notice these colours of orange and red really turning exceptionally hot across parts of England and Wales by Wednesday and Thursday. Out there this evening, we still have the remnants of today's rain, edging its way southwards into parts of the North Midlands, North Wales and maybe towards the Wash, but nothing more than a band of cloud really by the end of the night and bringing the odd very isolated light shower. It stays dry to the south with some potential fog patches in southwest England, but quite a warm night in the towns and the cities, lows of 15 or 16 degrees, for example, in Cardiff and indeed in London. A much chillier start to Monday, though, across more northern areas. Temperatures certainly down into single figures in the countryside. But quite a blustery and showery start to the day in north-east Scotland. A few showers affecting Shetland and Orkney. Plenty of sunshine, though, for most of mainland parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Just the odd shower in coastal regions. And mostly dry for England and Wales first thing as well. With the strong sunshine, the temperatures will really quite quickly lift as we go through the course of the morning. And it's set to be a fine, dry and mostly sunny day for the vast majority of the UK. Still a few showers affecting the very far northeast of Scotland and a fairly brisk northwesterly wind here, so it will feel on the cool side for August. Otherwise, though, pleasantly warm in the sunshine and not as hot in the south as indeed it was on Sunday. Highs are around 26 or 27 degrees Celsius. Now for Tuesday, possibly the odd spot or two of rain in western Scotland and generally a little bit cloudy in some northern areas for a time, but otherwise plenty of sunshine for many, particularly in England and Wales, with some warmth spreading northwards through the course of the day, so temperatures perhaps into the mid-20s even for Scotland. But the heat really builds on Wednesday and indeed on Thursday. We could see the mid-30s Celsius in some spots, so some exceptionally hot weather on the way.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Have you ever noticed that when families of victims of horrific crimes, how they always call for calm and for the crimes to not be used to make political statements? If so, you're not the only one. A new blog, a new investigation reveals that the government have indeed been influencing these sort of statements with what's called the Nudge Unit. The Home Office's Research, Information and Communications Unit uses family liaison officers to tone down remarks from the likes of Siobhan White, whose daughter Rhiannon was murdered by the asylum seeker Deng Chol Majek. The author of this fascinating piece, David Shipley, a writer and justice system commentator, joins me now. Welcome to the show, David. Reading this investigation, it was just so illuminating because it was like the veil was lifted on what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think lots of people online in particular have talked about RICO a lot, and they've talked about this idea that I think we all noticed the statements from families of victims are quite similar. You know, most recently the Belfast one, where the family, right after a tragedy, wanted to talk about the importance of migrants for our hospitality sector, which I think was a bit of a tell. But no one really seemed to have understood why it was happening. And people were suggesting that these families were being threatened in some way. And that never really seemed very credible to me. If Home Office heavies were going around door to door, someone would have talked about it. It would have leaked. You know, it just didn't feel true. So I went and actually spoke to quite a lot of families who've been through this process. And I managed to speak to some people who've been involved in policing around victim liaison as well. And I think what was really interesting is what they actually do, I think, is much more sinister, much more subtle than threats. So if you imagine if you're, the White family, for example, that this awful thing has just happened. You know, your loved one, your daughter, your mother, your sister has just been murdered in the most brutal way. You're incredibly vulnerable. This is probably the worst day of your life. And then suddenly the specially trained officers arrive, the victim liaison officers, and they say, hey, we've got you. We're going to take care of everything. We're going to keep the press at bay. We're going to deal with all the processes that you'll be bothered by. None of that's going to happen. We're going to take care of you. And in stepping into that role, I think they work to make themselves indispensable. And then, having made the families dependent on them emotionally, when they make suggestions, and the families don't ever say they feel like they were forced to say things. They just say, oh, well, we weren't told what to say. They just helped us find the words to say what we were feeling. And it's just that the words are always these, anodyne statements about unity and coming together and, never actually addressing what they really feel. And then you notice later on, so after Deng Chol Majek had been sentenced, suddenly Siobhan White started speaking out. And she started saying, actually, the reason this happened is because we imported this incredibly dangerous man. And we keep doing this, and more of these killings are going to happen, which is true. And that's, I think, what she really felt, and what she always really wanted to say. But she was nudged away from that in a way that's very sinister. And another thing they seem to do, which is also, I think, very disturbing, is I spoke to Emma Webber. So you will probably remember the Nottingham killings, where Valdo Calacane killed 3 people. And in the aftermath of that, 2 of the families, it seems, were both asking to be put in touch with each other, but were being told by the officers, oh no, they don't want to talk to you, they're just dealing in their own way. There were situations where liaison officers would arrange calls with the CPS and not invite one family to it. And I think what they were trying to do there was keep the families apart, because my belief is that what they work on is creating this sense of indispensability. And if that is the case, you wouldn't want the families to meet other families in the same...
Well, they can compare notes.
Well, yes. But also, I think that with that shared trauma, they would instantly be able to support each other much better, and that would detract from the control and the relationship which the liaison officers have. I think, as something I'm doing is I'm doing a PhD on researching the experiences of children with a parent in prison. And something that's very obvious is they really benefit from meeting other kids with a mum or dad in jail, because if you've got that shared horrible experience, you can support each other really well, and they bond very quickly with each other. And it seems the liaison officers actively try to stop that happening, I think, so that they can retain control.
So do you think it's that... I mean, liaison officers serve a function, and I imagine they also are incredibly comforting and are required... there is arguably the need for someone to serve that role. Do you think that the Nudge Unit... I mean, do you agree with that, first of all? Would you say that there is a role to be played in terms of helping the families to understand the process? And
I think there is, but actually it shouldn't be done by the police. And if you speak to police officers who have been within these parts of policing, they actually acknowledge that victim liaison officers aren't really there to support the victims or the families. They're there as part of the investigation team, and they're there to manage the situation. They are fundamentally part of the police hierarchy. And some families of victims recognise this as well. And what some suggested to me, and I think I agree with this, is that there should be a separate team who are actually there to serve the interests of the family, to advocate for them, to help them, to help them understand. But that can't be part of the policing team whose interests are not aligned at all with victims.
That's it, isn't it? Is that the fact that there would be a different set of interests, when I imagine it would be the demand for justice, that would be something that would be the same, but also this idea of controlling a narrative and not creating community tensions. Yeah.
Well, this is, and something that's quite sinister about this as well. So if you remember, so Henry Nowak's family, we know, were supported by specially trained officers. And when that story was breaking, we had the Prime Minister at the time, Keir Starmer, coming into the Commons and saying that the family want us all to be quiet. The family are calling for calm. But actually, those are narratives that are being pushed into the family and out into the world via the state. And then the state is using those narratives to tell us all that we shouldn't
Don't make this political. I think it was the same with Anne Widdecombe's family. Let's not make this political.
Yeah, it's very odd. I think it's very... it's appalling, actually. It's actually what we're expected to do with each terrible crime is pretend it's just a tragedy. It's just like an extreme weather event that just happened. And there's nothing we could learn from it. There's no policy we might change to make these crimes
When you
less
saw in Nottingham, and you just saw the institutional failure across the board that led directly, arguably, to those murders.
It did, yeah. And I think we have a catastrophic failure to properly detain very dangerously mentally ill men. We have a catastrophic failure in that we import very dangerous men like Deng Chol-majek. These crimes happen as a result of policy, and calls to not politicise them are really politicians just saying we don't want to be blamed for something actually which is their fault.
Yeah. Do you think that being exposed now, the nudges, tactics will change and adapt, or is it just that every time? I mean, it's incredible that these crimes still are kind of ongoing. But when they are, it's like you just kind of are waiting for this kind of statement to come out. The British public are not stupid.
Yeah, and I think
the British public can see what's going on at some level.
I think we can, and I think the magic stops working once you know what the trick is. And I think that's why with the Belfast thing, we all just laughed at it because it was so ridiculous that the language was just so corporate. And I think sometimes it almost feels like reading something written by an LLM because it's language created by a committee. You can tell it's not got a human emotion behind it.
Not a parent grieving.
Yeah, exactly. And we can feel that, I think, in our hearts. And we know it's a lie, and we know we're being lied to.
Yeah. Well, David Shibby, thank you so much. Let me just say where because I think people should read this if they have the opportunity. What's the website again?
Oh, it's on the Pimlico Journal.
Pimlico Journal, yes. Anyway, massive round of applause, please. David. GB News contacted the Home Office for comment, but they did not get back to us. It has previously said that the RICU does not prepare or review statements to be read out or released by families of victims or crime and terrorism. RICU provides analysis on extremist use of propaganda and exploitation of the internet to inform the UK's counter-terrorism system. Next, on Free Speech Nation, ever noticed that a lot of books are coming your way full of anti-Semitism written by anti-Semites? Well, what will people who are fighting anti-Semitism do about that? We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
4 heat waves, weeks without meaningful rain. As the UK heads towards one of its hottest summers on record, the pressure is showing here in Sussex, in the fruit growing across these fields.
Well, the impact of the heat is already visible here. This local grower says that if these extreme temperatures continue, this year's harvest may well be smaller in size.
I don't think there's been another period like this in the history. 3 years ago, we had a tremendous heat wave in the middle of harvest. We were unable to get the fruit to cool down quickly enough. The following year we had a very, very light crop, and the same again this year.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain's only all-female chess team, called She Plays to Win, has been promoted to the game's top division, only to be told they must recruit a male player to compete. Now, league rules require every First Division team to include at least one male and one female player, meaning that one of the team's female players could lose her place. I'm joined in the studio by the She Plays to Win chess players, Anusha and Alicia. Great to see you both this afternoon.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry about what's going on. You've been promoted, but you might have to lose one of your teammates. What's going on here?
So essentially, we have fallen victim to this rule that She Plays to Win, our team, has been promoted to the First Division in our league, but now must have a male player as part of the rules.
GB News, the People's Channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Well, that drought is due to long periods, record periods actually, with no rainfall and high temperatures. The areas that are affected, as you say, over half of England, half of the UK affected by that. The areas being East Anglia, Hertfordshire, the whole of London, Thames Valley, Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, Devon and Cornwall, the West Midlands and Wessex, covering Dorset, Somerset, Wiltshire and Gloucestershire. So a huge area impacted by that drought. There is also that amber heat health alert still in place here. That's in place until tomorrow. And temperatures today in the south could reach up to 35 degrees. So people here in Bognor Regis coming to the coast to cool down.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. We're going to get some questions now from our audience. Ryan, what is it that you wanted? You were talking about vomit, or was that just how you're feeling?
No, I read a story recently where a nurse was disciplined for putting a vomit emoji on a LGBTIAQ+.
Oh, I see.
Post.
Oh, I see. So, yes, OK. So, this is a nurse who was disciplined, yes, for putting a vomit emoji on an LGBTQIA+ post.
That's so vomitophobic.
Yes, I mean, is that implying that LGBTQIA+ people don't vomit? I don't know exactly that. But that is exactly, of course, what we're trying to say. I mean, who knows what exactly that person... They could be doing a vomit emoji because of the term, which is increasingly more a highly contentious term in terms of the LGB, which is immutable characteristics, combined with the TQIA+.
I keep getting the update. I'm on like a service where they tell me when the new letters are added. And this keeps me up to date. So far, there's not one for me. Fingers crossed.
Yes. Now, I wanted to actually just to mention probably the best video that I saw this week, which was Intel Lady, who comes on the show from time to time. And she did you see her sort of mockery of the Labour MP who was on holiday? And I would highly...
Oh, the Summer of Sex.
Summer of Sex MP, yes.
She's not delivered on that promise yet, but I keep waiting. So.
I know, right? This is the problem. But yes, it is a brilliant clip if anybody wants to check it out. Also, there was a council which I believe there have been complaints because they put a dead end sign outside of a cemetery.
Yep.
But it was roadworks. But who complains, Steve?
What joyless person bothers to complain? That is just the universe giving you a lovely joke. And for those of us, look, most people will have lost some relatives or whatever. The first funeral I went to was my granddad's when I was young, and I was surprised at how much you have humour when you're in the big old scary car and all the grown-ups were laughing, and you kind of realise, no, that's how we cope with stuff, isn't it? So I think if you're on your way there and you'd lost a loved one over, you're upset, you see that sign, you would enjoy that moment. There's brief little bit of light goodbye on an otherwise miserable day. It's hilarious. It says dead end. It's next to a cemetery. What more do you want?
But people complained, and then not only that, but the council actually apologised. That's about they were deeply offended by it.
Yeah, 6 foot deeply offended.
6 foot deeply. All right, well, there we go. Absolute madness. Well, have you enjoyed yourselves, ladies and gentlemen? Well, thank you very much for joining us. If anybody has any queries about the show, this is your first time, was it, madam?
Yeah, it was.
Did you enjoy it? Have you never watched the show before?
Pardon?
You've never watched the show?
No, I didn't really know what I was playing.
Wow, are you radicalised now?
Can I just say, I just got a text. They've added the Z. Good times.
I finally feel free.
Okay,
and
brilliant.
recognised.
Well, look, thank you at home also for joining us for Free Speech Nation. So this was the week when a detective was sacked over a joke that a Nazi was allowed into the Conservative Party, an ex-Nazi, and disliking a certain type of dog was called racist. Thank you to my panel, Steve and Miriam, all of my brilliant guests this evening, of course. And if you want to join us live in the studio, be part of this wonderful audience, you can. Please go to gbnews.com/tickets. Stay tuned, of course, for the brilliant Alex Armstrong tonight. That is next. Thank you very much for watching Free Speech Nation. Goodbye, and Alex is going to tell us what's on his show. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josh. Yes, I've got an interesting story for you tonight. What do you think about this Syrian asylum seeker who fled many parts of Europe, landed here in Britain, got a free council house and thousands of pounds a month in benefits? Absolutely bonkers story. I'm also going to be talking to you about French businesses, because last night we exposed here, an exclusive on GB News, that many different organisations here in Britain, including businesses, were profiteering off of the illegal migrant crisis. Well, now we've got some French ones too, so I'm going to give you that as another expose tonight. And what do you make of David Lammy for Mayor of London, hey? Have we suffered enough? I think we might have done. And of course, Labour are also thinking of ditching the flag in their materials as a way of appeasing the far left. Loads of great stories coming up on Alex Armstrong tonight for you this evening. As you know, stories and news you don't get anywhere else because the establishment refused to broadcast them. That's all coming up on Alex Armstrong tonight in just a few minutes' time. See you in a tick.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We've got a fine, sunny and increasingly hot week of weather on the way for many. The exception will be across the very far northwest of the UK, where we will see cloudier and wetter conditions at times, and that's courtesy of a weather front that's just going to slightly edge in from the Atlantic. But notice these colours of orange and red really turning exceptionally hot across parts of England and Wales by Wednesday and Thursday. Out there this evening, we still have the remnants of today's rain, edging its way southwards into parts of the North Midlands, North Wales and maybe towards the Wash, but nothing more than a band of cloud really by the end of the night and bringing the odd very isolated light shower. It stays dry to the south with some potential fog patches in southwest England, but quite a warm night in the towns and the cities, lows of 15 or 16 degrees, for example, in Cardiff and indeed in London. A much chillier start to Monday, though, across more northern areas. Temperatures certainly down into single figures in the countryside. But quite a blustery and showery start to the day in north-east Scotland. A few showers affecting Shetland and Orkney. Plenty of sunshine, though, for most of mainland parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Just the odd shower in coastal regions. And mostly dry for England and Wales first thing as well. With the strong sunshine, the temperatures will really quite quickly lift as we go through the course of the morning. And it's set to be a fine, dry and mostly sunny day for the vast majority of the UK. Still a few showers affecting the very far northeast of Scotland and a very brisk northwesterly wind here, so it will feel on the cool side for August. Otherwise, though, pleasantly warm in the sunshine and not as hot in the south as indeed it was on Sunday. Highs are around 26 or 27 degrees Celsius. Now for Tuesday, possibly the odd spot or two of rain in western Scotland and generally a little bit cloudy in some northern areas for a time, but otherwise plenty of sunshine for many, particularly in England and Wales, with some warmth spreading northwards through the course of the day, so temperatures perhaps into the mid-20s even for Scotland. But the heat really builds on Wednesday and indeed on Thursday. We could see the mid-30s Celsius in some spots, so some exceptionally hot weather on the way.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
thank you to our global community for watching and listening to GB News. We're not only the #1 news channel in Britain, we're chosen by you around the world.
Welcome to Orlis Santi by Domes Resorts, and there's just 2 weeks left to see how you too could be enjoying the 5-star lifestyle. First, you can bank an incredible £60,000. We'll also give you a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Bowl.